Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with episode 144 of the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. Can't wait to get into this week's topic, which is going to be a very bold promise, which is how to get hired anywhere. So before we even get into the 5 questions that I'm going to share with you that's going to help you ace your job interview, is actually the reason why you may want to get hired and not go off on your own right away. So let me share with you just some thoughts I have. And it's that when I first started out in the health and fitness-based industry, I had my certification. I had a couple. I had one in nutrition. I had one in personal training. And that's where I started. So I started with those 2, and then I just kind of went deeper on each one of those for a while, and into strength and conditioning, into yoga, into all sorts of different things, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, you name it. And it's because I'd love to learn, I'd love to study. But the truth is that if I went off on my own I was 22. At 22 years old, it probably would not have gone well. And the reason is that I didn't know that much overall, like in the grand scheme of things, about how to work with clients. I knew a decent amount about fitness. I knew a decent amount about nutrition. I knew how to at least get myself results and some other people as well. So I figured, okay, well, I could help maybe a few other people get results who are kind of like me too. And I think most people can. And that's why, I don't think that you should ever wait to be ready, because you're never going to feel ready. You just have to literally start. And after you've read a couple dozen books on your preferred topic that you want to work in, you're good to go. Like, you're good to go out there and start working with people. You don't have to pretend like you know everything, but you have to say to people, listen, I can help you get from A to Z. And if you don't believe that you can, well, then you're just not going to work with that client. I think that's a pretty fair deal. And you'll learn a lot along the way. The problem is that if you don't have any experience in business, you don't have experience in like how to set up client packages or charge a client or bill a client or set up scheduling or any of these things, and you simply want to get better at your craft, oftentimes it can be better to work with a company for 1 to 3 years in order to gain experience that you're going to have. And then decide, hey, do I want to stick with this company? Do I want to move up within the company, get promoted, whatever it might be? Or do I want to go off on my own? Or do I want to stay in that same position? Because there's just different paths for everyone. I mean, you really have unless you're all in, unless you are really in it to win it, you probably shouldn't start your own business. And it's not that I'm trying to dissuade you from that. You might want to do a part-time business. You want to do a moonlighting-based business, but you may not want to do all in 40 hours a week, all the pressure's on you. But at the same time, again, if that's your calling, I can never tell people that's their calling. But if it's your calling and you're called to do that because it is what you eat, sleep, breathe, it's what you love to do, and you know that it's for you, you know that it's your path in life, then go all in. Because that is ultimately what's going to give you great satisfaction, great pleasure, and you're going to be able to help so many more people. But the bottom line is this: if you don't have any experience, you're going to have to start doing your social media, your content, your posting, reaching people, but you may want to get hired somewhere and learn the inner workings of what it's even like to be a health coach, a personal trainer, a chiropractor, whatever it might be. I know some of the best people in the world all learned under someone else. I was no different. Literally, basically every job I have, I can't say that, as a doctor of naturopathy, I worked under anyone, but I did a lot of internships. So I got to see it that way. I didn't learn the billing and all those things, but I did work for many years as a health and fitness professional with nutrition, strength and conditioning, and personal training. So I learned all the billing on my own. It certainly took a while, took a long time, don't get me wrong. But before that, I learned how to create personal training packages. I learned how to work with clients. I learned how to schedule. I learned how to move up a bit in the company, how to oversee other people. So again, I got experience in all of those things at other jobs that I was working at. And I just don't think that it should be shunned at all. I know we're kind of in the age of entrepreneurism where everybody wants to work on their own. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. And you know what? We'll save that for a topic for another show. But I think that there's a time and place. If you're looking to work like 10 hours a week and you're not necessarily in this for the money, but you want the satisfaction, well, then you could certainly like work on your own. But if you need that guaranteed paycheck, if you want to learn as you grow, you want to learn from other people probably that have more experience from you, you want to work under maybe a doctor or a head in a practice, then you can learn that way. And so again, it's just something to think about. I think there's pros and cons, like I said, to everything, and just to figure out what works best in your life right now. What I want to do right now, though, is share with you how to become a better candidate and win out over 20, 30, 50 people in the job market right now. I'll tell you this, every time we place an ad for any position inside of one of my organizations, whether it be Equalife, whether it be the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, or whether it be my StephenCabral.com team, the Cabral Wellness team, we get, I would say, 50 to 70 resumes within 5 days, maximum. We always say, okay, we're going to run this particular ad for 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks, we'll shut it off. And oftentimes, we're between 50 and 100 resumes within the first week. And so and again, I have people that run all of these, which is amazing. Again, I have an amazing team that does all of this. But again, at one point, I did all of this. I mean, that's how I've learned these things. That's how I've been able to share and teach them as well. Because there's one thing about being a practitioner, which again, if you love being a practitioner, you may want to work in an organization if you don't necessarily like to do all the business and operation things as well. Because starting out, you're going to have to do all of them yourself. Again, not a bad thing, but something to recognize. So out of the 50 people that we get, 100 people for one position, we can only hire one, right? We just went through this. I know we go through this. Honestly, we hire 2 to 4 people a month for Equalife. We don't hire as many, that's for sure, for the StephenCabral.com brand. But, we just hired one person for IHP as well, and we'll be hiring more. So here's what I want to share with you. There's a few things that are really important when you're looking to get hired. The first one is that you read the ad fully, because most people don't read the ad. Meaning like, I don't know what you want to call it, job posting. I guess that's a better way to say it, right? We're not advertising, we're posting a job. So they just blindly send their resume to as many jobs that they feel that they might be a fit for, and we'll see who replies back. That's one way to do it. I don't think that's the best way, and you may not even be selected for a callback. So out of the 50 to 100 resumes we get, we call back about a dozen people, or we email back to about a dozen people, the top dozen. Okay. The rest of them just get filed away. And so what I want to share, why do I want to share that with you is because we ask for 2 things, not one, inside of our job postings. We ask for a resume and a cover letter. You'd be shocked at how many people do not write a cover letter. Why? Because it takes just a little bit more time. But we're looking for professionals. Why does that matter? Because we need to see how a person follows the instructions and is also able to take the time, initiative, energy to write back, right, for this specific job. So they might write, Dear Equalife, I saw your job posting on XYZ. I've looked over your website. It's really, call it whatever you want, right? And just say, here's why I think I might be the ideal candidate for this position. Really love what you do. Here's some things that I've done in my past. I've enclosed my resume for further details, and I would love to talk with you one-on-one if I'm the right candidate. Like something like that, right? It doesn't have to be long. We're talking about a half a page maximum. It doesn't have to be long. And it's professionally done. And you can find cover letter templates for free all over the internet, right? But it just took a little bit more time. You wrote to us specifically, used the name, learned a little bit about the company, and then you put forward a resume. The likelihood that you move from pile A, which is everybody, to B is much, much higher. Much higher. Okay, so then you have a professional resume and you have a professional cover letter, no typos, no grammar issues, right? Because we want to make sure that, hey, you're proofing your work. Because in a professional job, we're not talking about just, again, like we've all had entry-level jobs. We're not talking about entry-level jobs. You're not listening to this podcast for an entry-level job, right? Like, again, I've worked cash register. I've worked folding clothes back in high school. We're not talking about those jobs, okay? Nothing wrong with those jobs, but that's not what we're talking about here. So we just need to make sure that you are self-sufficient, that you can proof your own work, that you're going to send in a professional cover letter and resume. All right. So now you made it to the next group. Now you're going to get that phone interview. Typically, we hire all virtually, but sometimes it's in person. Doesn't matter if it's in person or whether it's virtual. In person is always better because then you can show up, you can look the person in the eyes, you can shake their hand, you can, put your best foot forward, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. You can dress for the part, all of those things, but you can still do that virtually, right? You're just going to have to work just a little bit more at virtually. What I wanted to share with you, though, is 5 questions that will take you from whatever your experience or resume is, because sometimes we hire people without the most experience, right? We hire them because we're like, wow, this person doesn't have as much experience, but the way that they came off, presented themselves, and shared ideas and information was next level. And we really want that type of person with that type of initiative on the team. So I'm going to share with you 5 things right now, questions to ask during your interview, all right? So during your interview, you're going to take the lead of whoever's interviewing you because it's their company. But when it's your turn to speak, you just say, I'd love to be able to ask you a few questions if you don't mind. And they'll be like, no, of course, please do ask. It's a conversation. So the first one that I recommend asking is, what is your overall vision for the company? So this is a great one to ask. So the employers then like, whoa, why is this person asking this? So it's a little strange at first. They're like, no, the person wants to see the bigger vision. And you could even lead up to it if you don't feel comfortable with that. You just say, I went on, I've learned a lot about you from your website. I've checked out your podcast, whatever the company may have. And it really seems like you're growing. That's all you have to say, right? And so I'm wondering, I'm very interested, what is the vision for the company this year and maybe down the road? How do you see it growing even further? And the company, whoever it is interviewing you, will love that you took that initiative, and they'll love to be able to answer that question. And then based on that question, you might even have a follow-up. It just depends on how much time you have for your interview, right? So you want to use that time wisely. So that's the first question. And again, all of these questions have come over the years from me listening to other people ask great questions. I haven't made any of them up myself, although I do have one tip I want to give you at the end that I think is always a winner. So the second question is this. If you can think about your best employee you have, what makes this person really stand out amongst everybody else? And you want to ask them that, and they'll be like, oh, that's another great question. Because now they're going to have to think about it. They're like, well, the person is always on time, is always professional, is always asking if there's anything more they can do, like whatever it might be, right? So they're going to, and you should be writing these things down. And you might say, listen, I apologize if I'm looking down. I'm actually just taking notes if you don't mind. That's it. And again, because you're always trying to be courteous, of course, during their interview. So you're writing it down. You don't want people to think that you're on your phone. Again, this is obviously if you're doing it virtually, which we hire all virtual people. So I'm just giving some virtual tips here. All right. So that's a great one because now they're basically telling you this is the model to become our best employee. And best employees get promoted. That's the way that it is, right? They're the best. They get first promotion. All right. The third question is this. What is it that I could do to improve my overall resume, experience, or skills to become a better candidate? That's it. Or to be the best candidate. So they're going to share with you maybe things they wouldn't have said based on you didn't ask, so they didn't want to say anything that isn't ideal. Now, why would you ask this? The reason is they're already thinking it, right? So they already know, so there's no secrets. And if you do not get selected this time, you know what to work on for other employers because most employers are looking for around the same type of thing. So they might say, well, overall, your education looks really good. Looks like you have the right certifications. You just don't have any experience, or you only have 6 months experience. We really like to hire people with 2 to 3 years experience. They might say that. You say, well, there's nothing I can do about that except what? Get to work, right? Get to work and start to build up that experience. Doing just more health coaching calls, more personal training sessions, whatever it might be. And again, you might say, well, I think I have to get hired for that. You do, right? But at the same time, you can also do more free sessions, right? You can get more experience doing that with friends, with family, with role playing, with trades in your community, like all sorts of different things, all right? So it's a great question to ask. Because again, you're getting free consulting. Someone who has years of experience and hires dozens and dozens, maybe 100 people, is giving you free advice on how you can improve. The fourth one is this: is there anything about me, based on my resume, based on my cover letter, based on our conversation, that you're unsure about? I'd love to be able to chat about those. And so why this is impressive is that you, again, are going to get to answer objections to the thoughts they had in their head but didn't want to share. So, for example, just did an interview, and I might have said to the person, which I didn't, we only had so much time, one of the things that I'm thinking about is that you've got a lot of great skills. It seems like it's the right match, but you've never worked in this industry. Because you've never worked in this industry, how do you think you'd fit in? Like, how do you think it would your skills in this industry would transfer to this one, the health and wellness industry? I think it'd be a good question to ask, because that candidate could then say, oh, I'm glad you asked. I know that I work in the, let's say, tech industry, but believe it or not, in my free time, I read about health. I listen to these podcasts. I actually have a health coaching certification that I haven't used before, but it is something I'm interested in. Like, whoa, I had no idea this person was into health. I had no idea they did sauna, they did exercise, they followed a gluten-free, dairy-free meal plan, right? So it's nice to ask those things, and you can be the one to bring it up. All right, the fifth question is this: what does the ideal candidate look like for this position? So what I'm doing right now is I'm asking in roundabout ways, am I this person? How close am I to this person? So I asked, what makes your best employee, right? The best, right? What makes them the best? What makes them stand out from the crowd, from everybody else? Then, how might I be able to improve my own skills? Is there anything that when you look at my cover letter, resume, you just don't know about, that you question, that you're unsure about, that you're maybe uneasy about? The last one is, what does the ideal candidate look like for this position? And it's a great one because they will list exactly what they are looking for. And so when your future employer tells you everything that would make the person ideal for this particular position, the reason why you also want to make notes on this is that you want to live up to expectations when you begin your job and then surpass them. That's the goal. You could even ask, what would it look like for someone to surpass expectations, right? So it's basically like, what does the ideal candidate look like? How could they even surpass expectations? Like, that's an amazing question to ask. Why is it an amazing question to ask? Because if someone's asking me, what's the ideal candidate look like? And how would they surpass expectations? I'm thinking, this person wants to do their very best in this job. You just don't hear people ask these questions. And so I wanted to share them with you. And the reason why I want to share them with you is that if you're sincere, that if you really want to be the best at what you do, it doesn't have to be like better than anybody else, but the best that you can absolutely be in that position, these are great questions to ask. They really do. I mean, they really are. And I'll probably talk about this more on another podcast, but I said I would give you this tip today. And the last thing is this, is that if they come back to you and you are not their pick, you just say, listen, we decided to go with someone else, like whoever it might be. If it's not a single candidate position, think of like health coach, think of personal trainer, think of even maybe like massage therapist, if there's enough, just say, and again, I want to go deeper in this on another podcast if I haven't already. It's, would it be like this is the ideal job for me, you're saying to them. This is the ideal job for me. Would it be possible for me to work for you for a certain amount of hours a week or month for free in order to prove myself that I'm the right candidate for this position? And I'm going to go into this deeper on another podcast, but when you say something like that, you are basically putting the ball in their court and saying that, wow, this person wants it. They're willing to work for free. let me think about how I can work this person into a role in my company, even if it's not right now at this moment. But if you didn't get hired, you're very likely to be next on the list for that next position, next hire. I've given this tip to many, many other people over the years coming up, and it's worked really well for them. I'll go in depth, much deeper on that particular tip. But again, use those 5 questions in any interview. The likelihood you get selected goes up exponentially. Hopefully this was helpful. Thanks so much for tuning in today. And of course, if it was helpful, please do feel free to share it with any one of your colleagues you believe it could help.